I promise I'm not gonna cry in this video, okay? Hello everyone. So today I want to redo a video that I did about a year ago. I was really bad at editing and it's just it's a bad video. So this is the story about how my dog here, Honey, got burned during surgery. I want to start off by saying, do not Google this unless you are prepared, unless you are ready to be traumatized. Just don't look this up throughout me telling the story, whatever you're thinking. You don't want to see it, trust me. It happens and you don't want to know the truth. So I'll start off now by saying she is one of the nicest Chihuahuas you will ever meet. For some reason, this is what everybody says when they meet her. She runs up to every single person thinking that they're a complete angel here to love her. And not a lot of Chihuahuas are like that. Not a lot of Chihuahuas love strangers. So it's very weird, but this story totally explains why. I'm gonna start off by how I got her. So it's a very weird time in my life. I was still living with my mom. I think I was, okay, hold on. So this would have been in 2016, so that would mean, let me do some math here. That's 5 years. I would have been 19 at this time, okay? My mom had a roommate at the time, and she was this lady who had a dog. And he was a toy Chihuahua, and he was absolutely adorable. And this lady happened to work all the time. She was a truck driver, and so she would leave her dog at our house all the time. And so I would take care of the dog because I just couldn't help but just love on it while it didn't have its mom at home, you know? I felt so bad for it, and we bonded a lot. And this lady, we bonded so much because she has the same birthday as me and purple hair and everything she owns is purple. Like, it was such a weird coincidence, this woman being my mom's age and my mom's friend, but yet me being just like me. Like, it was crazy. And she started to tell that I really loved her dog and that maybe I would benefit from having my own dog, and she got me a dog as a present because she knew the people that had bred her dog and they were having another litter, and she thought, whoa, what a perfect idea. I will get a puppy for Raven because she's been taking care of my dog. So it's kind of like her way of paying me for babysitting her dog, but instead of paying me, she bought this as a little tiny puppy. And obviously I had to wait until she was old enough to be adopted. You know how that works. So I adopted her, and she was 3 to 4 months old. And she was living with me, and you know, we were still living with that girl, and she had her dog around in the house. You know how dogs get. Her dog wasn't fixed. And since there was a little girl puppy coming in the house, that dog was getting very excited around my little tiny dog. And so the vets told me that I should get her fixed probably as soon as she's able to get pregnant, just so that it doesn't happen, especially with her, you know, older brother from a previous litter. I did not want that to happen. So as soon as she was able to get fixed, she was 4 months old, and I took her in just for a normal surgery, you know, her shots and her getting fixed. So the reason this is really hard for me to remember parts of is because this, weirdly enough, happened about 2 weeks before my house fire that happened at my mom's house. So it's such a scrambled time in my life, and so many things happened, but I can still remember this whole story because it happened before the whole house fire really affected my PTSD. So they don't recommend getting puppies fixed unless you need to, because there are multiple things that can go wrong. Any young animal or baby, anything, isn't gonna do well when they're under anesthesia, when they're in the vulnerable state that you are in surgeries like that. So they just don't really recommend it unless, you know, there's a risk of them not getting fixed. Since there was kind of a risk in her not getting fixed, I decided I would do it. The story goes that she came home from getting fixed and she was 100% fine. There was nothing on her back. There was nothing showing that she was burned. Everything was fine. And then a few weeks pass. And I was looking at her one day when she was laying in the sun, and she likes to lay in like the sun spots. You know how some dogs do that. And she had like this black dot like on her hip area, and I went up to her and I was like, what is this, you know? And I started to try to rub it off. I'm really sorry, it's so windy right now and my windows are kind of loud, so I've really been wanting to film a video for the last few days, and it's just been really windy, so I haven't been able to. So if that bothers you, I'm so sorry. Well, anyway, I got a wet rag and I went up to her and tried to wipe it off because I thought, you know, it was a spot of mud, or it was like hopefully not a spot of poop. And I tried to wipe it off and it wouldn't come off. So I was like, okay, this is really weird, but I'm just gonna, you know, it was nighttime, so I just waited till the next day. And the next day, I noticed that there was a second black spot next to the other black spot. And I was like, okay, what the heck is this? So I tried to wipe it off more, and I was like determined to get it off because her skin is, her hair is really light. So like, what is this black stuff on it? I should be able to get it off. And as I was rubbing on it, trying to like see if it would come off with water, she yelped and started to act like I was hurting her. So I was like, okay, shit, I'm gonna stop, whatever this is. And I started to look closer, and they seemed like open wounds of sorts, but they were black. And I was very concerned. We weren't really sure what to do, and the vets weren't really concerned about it. They were like, oh, it's like, it might be just a spider bite, because when we called, we said 2 black dots. And so I assumed they were imagining like pinpricks, but these were actually like dots of black. It was really weird. And so they weren't concerned. They just told us to like clean it and see what happened with time. It would probably get better. So then the next day, I noticed those 2 black dots are starting to merge and open up. And I have a picture for you guys. I'll show you a little bit later in the story. Hi, Editing Raven here. I just wanted to say I searched and searched through my entire phone, my entire Facebook, my Instagram, every single thing, and I can't find any more pictures of her burn, of her wound, or anything as it was happening. I guess I was so distraught during all of this, and like I said, I had a house fire, so there's no pictures except for this one that I found. So unfortunately, that's all I can show you guys, but you'll get to see that, and I warn you, it's very graphic. So I warn you, and I will put a timestamp warning because it's triggering. Like, I posted her picture onto Facebook and somebody was like, you need to put a trigger warning in here. I was like, geez, of all people, I should know that, right? Once they started to come together, it started to get very concerning, and eventually it was not only this big gaping wound, but then there was more wounds forming around it, and then forming into it, and then forming around it, and forming into it. And you can see that when you look at her scar. It goes all the way up her back and then all the way down her butt on both sides. You can't see it now because she's not sitting for you, but you still can't really see it, but there's part of it. There's where it ends. I'll show you guys close up at the end of the video, don't worry. I want to finish the story or else you're just going to be really confused. We took her into the vet and they were extremely like flustered and they didn't really know what to tell us, but we wanted to sue them because they were acting like they didn't want to help us, and they were like, did not know what was happening and it was kind of our fault. But when you start to Google anything even remotely like this, it's very clear what happened, and it does happen at crappy vets' offices when they use crappy old equipment. So I knew that this was a heating pad burn. And I'll explain a little bit more in detail of what exactly that is in a little bit. But I knew that this was like some weird anomaly that my dog got very unlucky with at this vet's office. And so we went in there telling them like, this is, you know, she's really severely like hurt and you're not wanting to help us at all or even listen to us and look at her, you know? Once we said we wanted to sue, they immediately were like, no, we'll pay for her to get taken care of at another vet's office, because we clearly did not want to be there anymore. So we started to take her to this other vet's office. I was in complete shock and I wasn't worried about suing anymore. I just wanted my dog to be okay, because from what it looked like, it was very bad. I'm gonna show you the picture now, please prepare yourself. I'm not gonna put it on the screen for that long. You can pause it if you wanna look at it. It was after just like a week of those black spots showing up, it eventually started to completely show its colors. It was green, red, pussy, bloody. It looked like it was such a severe burn that her skin had just died and died and died, layer upon layer. There was no sign of it at first, so for it to just start suddenly her skin falling off, it was so unusual and random, and it looked so very painful. I cannot tell you how devastating it is to see your puppy in that much pain. So the reason that this supposedly happens is when you put puppies in surgery, it's so hard for puppies and baby animals to keep their body temperatures regulated under anesthesia. They can die because they're not able to warm themselves during surgery. So what they'll do is they'll put heating pads underneath them. And sometimes some places don't check their equipment enough and they're using old equipment or whatever it is, and it short circuits on animals. And this also happens to people. It can happen to anything. So when that happens, it literally creates like a hole in these dogs. I repeat, don't Google this. It happens. It's so bad. When I was seeing these images at first, like knowing that that could be my dog, it was so terrifying. And I thank God that it wasn't as bad as it could have been. When you look this up, it's like gruesome stuff. And this picture, I mean, of her was very gruesome, obviously, but it still could have been very worse. And it does take dogs' lives because it creates like a cavern in their body, and there's no real way of coming back from that, you know? So when we started to take her to the animal shelter that was gonna start healing her, we had to take her in once every single week because they needed to check on the burn. It kept getting better and kept getting worse. They still didn't even know that it was a burn because I don't think any vet or animal shelter wants to admit that that happens and that it's like a huge mistake. But it was almost as if there was never a full conclusion as to what really happened to her, even though it's very obviously one of the most severe burns that's possible. But we took her in once a week so that they could do their full cleaning of it, and then we ourselves had to clean it once a day. We'd have to put her on our counter and scrub it, get all the green goop off the top of it, and then we would have to rub on this stuff called silver cream. And then we would have to put bandages on her, and then we would have to wrap an ace bandage around her whole body because she clearly wants to just lick that cream off of it. It's all she wanted to do was lick this thing because it was so like infected and probably so itchy. I can't imagine. I remember just wanting to scratch it for her so bad when it was like that. Now I can. Like, taking off the bandages of every single day, she would yip and whine sometimes because it would just be stuck to her fur and stuck to her skin because it was all goopy and it was just all infected. And we'd put an ace bandage around her, and then we would also have to put a little sweater on her because no matter what, she would try to get out of that ace bandage and she would wiggle onto the carpet and get her way out of the ace bandage. So then we realized, oh, we also have to put a shirt on her. So that's when I started to become the girl with the Chihuahua who wore shirts. And at that point, you couldn't tell that she was injured. So I just started to look like this girl carrying around a little Chihuahua that's dressed up. Really not who I am. She was a present. You know, like, it's just so weird how you get put in these positions in life. But it took so freaking long to heal. Mind you, our house fire happened as this was happening and unfolding. So it was one of the worst times in my entire life, honestly. And this picture that I showed you of her burn, I don't know if you can tell, but that floor that she's on is a hotel room floor, because when you have tragedies like a house fire or something random like this happens, Red Cross links up with certain hotels, like cheaper hotels in town, and like in all different states this happens, I assume. But they were linked up with the cheapest, trashiest hotel in my hometown, and that's where Red Cross sent us. So we were staying in this very, very horrible hotel with an injured little dog, and having to take her in to the vet constantly and having to clean her constantly. We lost a lot of our stuff. Anyway, I'm just really happy that she got through it, and she's like one of the happiest dogs ever now. So, you know, don't feel bad. I know it looks absolutely terrible, but she's literally couldn't be happier now. Once it started to heal, it became this like giant scab, and that was there for the longest time ever. And then it finally turned into what it is now, which is a big old scar that's starting to grow new white hairs. And they said she might possibly grow her hair back around the whole thing, but she probably won't, and it might just keep sprouting random white hairs wherever it feels like, which is kind of what it's doing. So I'm gonna show you guys now. Also, I wanted to mention her nerves are all messed up around it, so that's why when like I touch it even in the slightest, she kind of like freaks out and like tenses up her whole body. Okay, here's a better view. This is Honey, and this is her burn. Her scar, anyway. It's not nearly as bad as it looked when it was full-blown infected wound, you know. This is the main part. Stop licking me. This is the main part where those 2 dots started and then started to grow, and it went up here and then it went down there and then all the way up to here and then down here and down this side of her butt and then down the other side of her butt. And she's getting like all tense now that I'm touching it. Yeah. But it's totally healed now. It looks like old man skin, honestly. Honey, thanks you for watching, and I hope this was like sort of a conceivable video, because I have no idea if that made any sense. Thanks for watching. I might be adding clips from my original video if I forgot anything, or if I wanted to add that to this video, I might do that. So sorry if you're seeing like an old version of me. Don't let it confuse you. That's just me from like a year ago. Whatever you're doing, have a good day, good night, good evening. Bye.
Why do you have to be such an angel? Why? Why? Oh, okay. I love you. You're precious. Okay.
Okay. So. You're a good girl. Thank you.